Have you ever heard of a president who ran straight into a deadly flood with his own hands? No guards, no soldiers, no fear. A man who left his palace in the middle of the night to fight death and save his people? This is the true story of President Ibrahim Traoré, the man who did what no one expected. What happened that night shocked the whole country and changed a village forever. It began in a small village called Kélébou, deep in the green valleys of Burkina Faso. The people there were simple and kind. They farmed during the day, sang songs at night, and shared everything they had. The land gave them food, the sky gave them rain, and the great River Nata gave them life. That river was more than water. It was part of their story. It fed their farms, filled their pots, and gave them fish to eat. The children played on its banks, and the elders told stories about how the river had protected their ancestors. "Respect the river," they always said. "It has a spirit. If you forget, it will remember." But as the years passed, the people forgot. They built their homes too close to the river. They threw waste into it. They stopped giving offerings to the water spirit. And the river grew darker, quieter, colder. Then came the rainy season, then stronger than ever before. At first, everyone was happy. Rain meant food. Rain meant full rivers and healthy crops. The first few days were gentle and soft. But then the sky changed. Thick black clouds rolled in. The wind started to howl. The rain came harder and harder, pounding on roofs, shaking trees, turning the roads into mud. At night, thunder exploded across the sky. Lightning flashed again and again. The rain didn't stop. Not for one night, not for two, not for three. By the fourth night, the river had turned wild. It rose faster than anyone had ever seen. The water reached the farms, then the roads, then the doorsteps. Chickens floated away. Goats ran screaming. People tried to block their doors with sandbags, but it was useless. Old Chief Amadou, the village leader, stood in the rain holding his small radio. His face was wet, not just from rain, but from tears. The water was already up to his knees. He pressed the radio button again and again. "This is Kélébou village," he shouted. "We are trapped. The water is rising. Please, someone help us." Then suddenly the line went silent. The battery died. The village had no power, no light, no road, no hope. Hundreds of miles away, in the capital, it was already past midnight. The storm could be heard even inside the presidential palace. Most lights were off. But in one room, President Ibrahim Traoré was still awake, reading papers about the country's roads and schools. He was known as a man of the people, strong, fearless, and kind. Suddenly, a soldier ran into the room, soaked in rain. "Sir!" he shouted. "We have terrible news. The village of Kélébou is drowning. The bridge is gone. Rescue trucks can't get there." The president looked up, calm but serious. "How many people are trapped?" "More than 300, sir. They have no way out. Any deaths?" "Not yet, but if we wait, they won't last till morning." The room went quiet. The president stood, closed the folder on his desk, and said only 5 words. "Get the car." "We're going." His guards were shocked. "Sir, it's too dangerous." "The storm is still too strong." "You can't," he interrupted. "If my people are in danger, then I'm in danger too. Move now." Minutes later, a black Jeep drove out of the palace gates into the storm. Rain hit the windshield like bullets. The driver could barely see the road. Lightning cracked open the sky, showing trees bending in the wind. "Sir, the roads are flooding." The driver shouted, "Keep going," the president said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were full of fire. They drove for hours through mud, broken bridges, and falling trees. The closer they got to Kélébou, the worse it became. Finally, the road disappeared underwater. The driver stopped. "We can't go further, sir." The river took the road. The president opened the door and stepped out into the rain. The cold water hit his boots. "Then we walk," he said. The soldiers hesitated. "Sir, you could die." "I'd rather die trying," he said, and started walking toward the dark flood. The rain hit his face, but he didn't stop. The water rose to his knees, then his waist. Every step was a fight. They used flashlights to see, but the wind kept blowing them out. In the distance, they heard cries, faint but real. "Help! Help us! Over there!" the president shouted. They followed the voices. When they reached the edge of the village, they saw destruction everywhere. Roofs floating, walls broken, chickens' clothes and wooden doors drifted past. People were on top of trees and huts crying for help. It looked like the whole world was underwater. The soldiers wanted to wait for daylight, but the president said, "If we wait, people will die." He jumped into the water and started swimming toward the nearest house. Inside, a woman was screaming. She was holding a baby above the water. "Please, someone save my child." The president swam to her, grabbed her arm, and said, "I've got you." He pulled her out through the window, holding the baby high. The woman cried, "God bless you." He handed the baby to a soldier and went back again. And again. Each time he went, the current grew stronger. His clothes were heavy, his hands bleeding from ropes and sharp debris. But he didn't stop. Then came a boy shouting, "My brother!" He's still inside the hut. The hut was half underwater, shaking in the current. The president ran there without thinking. He broke the door open, dove inside, and found a small boy hiding under a chair. He grabbed him, lifted him onto his shoulder, and fought the water to get out. When he came out, the villagers were cheering and crying. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. The president of their country saving them with his own hands. Then suddenly they heard a roar, louder than thunder. A huge wave came down the hill, carrying mud, logs, and branches. Everyone screamed, "The wave, run!" The rope that the soldiers had tied between trees snapped. The president disappeared under the water. The villagers screamed, "He's gone!" Soldiers jumped in, but the current was too strong. Seconds felt like hours. Then, like suddenly, he came up again, coughing and shouting, "I'm here! Don't give up!" That moment changed everything. The people stopped crying. They started helping. Men formed chains. Women carried the children. The president held one end of the rope, shouting directions. "Hold tight! Don't let go. We will all live." They fought through the night. The storm raged, but no one gave up. When the first light of morning came, the rain stopped. The wind slowed. The river began to calm. The water was everywhere, but the people were safe. Not a single life was lost. When they realized it, they fell to their knees. Some cried, some laughed. Chief Amadou walked up to the president, still covered in mud, and said, "We called for help, and help came himself." The president smiled and said, "You are brave people. Together, we beat the storm." That evening, when the clouds cleared, they lit fires on the high hill. The people sat around, drying their clothes, eating what little food was left. The president sat with them, eating from the same pot. He listened to their stories, held the hands of crying children, and promised to rebuild every home. But as the fire burned, something strange happened. The river began to glow faintly under the moonlight. A white mist rose above it. The air became cold and still. The fire flickered. Then slowly a tall figure appeared out of the mist, shining and silent. The villagers gasped. "The river spirit," someone whispered. The figure spoke in a deep, calm voice. "People of Kélébou, I have watched you for many years. I gave you life, but you forgot me. You dirtied my water. You built on my banks. You broke the balance. So I rose in anger." The villagers trembled. The chief said, "Please forgive us, Great Spirit. We were blind." The spirit turned toward the president. "But you entered my waters with no fear. You saved others before yourself. You showed respect and courage. For that, I will give you a chance to make peace." The president bowed his head. "Tell us what we must do." The spirit said, "In the old forest north of here, there is a sacred tree. It is older than your people. Take one seed from it and plant it near the river. Care for it as you would care for your children. If you do, I will protect you. But if you forget again, I will return." Then, as suddenly as it came, the spirit vanished. The mist faded. The river went still. The next morning, the president stood up and said, "We must go find the tree." He took a group of villagers and soldiers and started walking through the forest. The path was muddy, full of fallen trees. They walked for hours, hungry and tired. Strange animal sounds echoed through the trees. Finally, they saw it. A huge baobab tree, its trunk wider than a house. Its roots looked like they had been there forever. The president walked up to it, touched the bark, and whispered, "You have seen many storms." Under the tree, on the wet ground, lay a single seed, round and golden brown. He picked it up and smiled. "This is it." They went back to the village and gathered everyone. The president held up the seed and said, "This seed is hope. It is peace between us and the river." Together they dug a hole near the riverbank and planted it. When they covered it with soil, a soft wind blew and the river shimmered under the sun. The chief said, "The river has forgiven us." Days passed. The seed sprouted. A small green plant grew. The villagers came every day to water it. They called it the Tree of Peace. The president sent trucks, builders, and tools. They rebuilt their homes far from the river. They built stronger walls, higher roads, and a school for the children. He didn't just send help. He came himself. He worked with them, lifting bricks, planting trees, and checking the river's level. He told them, "Never forget what happened. Nature is our friend if we respect it." Weeks passed and the village was alive again. The river was clean. The air was fresh. The people smiled again. The little tree grew tall and the children played under it. Travelers from other towns came to see it. They said, "This is the village the president saved himself." They touched the tree, took pictures, and told the story everywhere. Soon, everyone in the country knew about the night of the Great Flood and the man who faced it. Years later, the tree became huge. Its shade covered the whole village. The river never flooded again. People came to celebrate it every year. They sang songs about courage and hope. One day, a journalist asked President Traoré, "Why did you go that night? You could have sent your army." He smiled and said, "A real leader doesn't send others into the storm. He walks into it himself." And that is how one man's courage saved a village and taught a whole country that true strength is not in power. It is in love, duty, and heart. So when life feels heavy, when everything goes wrong, remember this story. Remember Kélébou. Remember the man who walked into the flood. Because no matter how dark the storm, courage can always light the way. If this story touched your heart, then don't leave just yet. Subscribe now to African Tales by AO, where stories of courage, kindness, and true heroes come alive. Every day, we share real stories that remind you of what truly matters: hope, strength, and heart. Hit that subscribe button. Share this story with someone who needs inspiration today. And remember, even one act of courage can change the world.